Thank you very much. It sounds like I'm on some sort of quiz show. Thanks very much for inviting us. My name's Alan Francis. Quite a few of you, I think, know me. I've been living in Milton Keynes for 40 years, and I've been politically active for pretty much all of that time. Some of you will know this is actually the 10th general election that I have fought on behalf of the Green Party. I'm a parish councillor. I'm involved in lots of community groups, such as the bus users group, the Milton Keynes Forum, the local civic society. In the past, I've been involved with groups such as the Milton Keynes Peace Campaign, that I know many of you were also part of, and Friends of the Earth, and all sorts of other sort of community groups. I'm standing again because I want to represent the people of Milton Keynes, and I don't like the way that the governments of any of the parties over the last few decades have actually been doing it. And I've got three priorities for this election, and that's the climate emergency, Brexit and austerity. And I'll just say kind of a few words about each of those. The climate emergency, it's real. We've got the COP25 conference starting in Madrid today, where the UN General Secretary has said we're not collectively as the world doing enough to tackle the climate emergency. The Greens, we've committed to being carbon neutral by 2030, which is what the science recommends, and we've got a Green New Deal where we'd spend £100 billion a year on things like insulating homes to reduce energy, provide people with better housing, better public transport in order to reduce CO2 emissions and so on, creating lots more jobs as well. On Brexit, we think that that would be a disaster for the UK, for the economy, for the environment and for people. And our policy on that is that we want a second referendum. We actually think it would have been much better to have a second referendum before a general election. Sadly, this general election is turning into a bit of a referendum rather than being a general election. It's focusing on one particular topic. And if we do get a second referendum, we would campaign to remain. So we want the people to have the choice, but we are very much on the side of remaining within the EU. On austerity, over the last decade or so, the government has made massive cuts to councils, to schools, to health services, in fact most of our public services, and they are no longer adequate to provide us with the services that we need. And it's shameful that in the fifth largest economy, which is apparently what the UK is, that we have long hospital waiting lists, we have rough sleepers. 100 yards from this building, there are people sleeping in tents, and that's appalling. We have people who are dependent upon food banks, and a recent report said a third of the children in Milton Keynes are living in poverty. Now that's appalling for a wealthy nation such as the UK. So we want to change the policies to ensure that everyone can live in a good way, has adequate food, shelter, warmth and so on. Now if I just move on to the question from the Youth Cabinet, which was about how to prioritise the views of Milton Keynes residents over parties' views. The Green Party has what's called a no whipping policy. Now most of the other parties, the MPs will do what the party leadership tells them. The process is called whipping. And they actually have particular MPs called whips who go around and tell them, you know, never mind what the local people think, this is how you will vote on this issue. The Green Party doesn't do that. We believe in each MP representing the people that they are have been elected by. Sorry, is that 30 seconds? Yeah. Right. So very quickly then to the points made by the four speakers before. I've said about being carbon neutral by 2030. That addresses the first one. Fair work, we'd have a living wage of £12 an hour for everyone, including 16 to 21-year-olds. That's one of the ways of tackling that. Okay, I'll have to skip. I'll leave the rest to my colleague. Thank you.